As Barbara did, I also need to make an apology to Eva for making her the center of attention for the day, because that is definitely not anything that she ever particularly liked being, but I think there are a few events that require that you suck it up, Eva, and be the center of attention for the day. Other thank yous that I would like to pass on, I would like to thank very much David, and I apologize, David, because David Adair, I don't have a program in front of me, so I don't have the names of the two folks who were playing the strings when we came in, doing the prelude for the ceremony, but appreciate that very much. As everyone knows, Eva was a huge supporter of the Georgian Bay Symphony, and I think having them participate is something that would have been very special, very meaningful to Eva. So Matt and Elspeth, thank you very much for your time. Likewise, I'd like to thank the Old Sound Children's Chorus under Nancy Stewart's direction. Nancy is the music director here at the church as well. Like the symphony, as everyone knows, the very, very special people in Eva's life were children. And Eva has been a long, long time supporter of the children's choirs here in town. And thank you very much. Are any of the kids from the children's choir still here, or they left? Okay. Well, I think they deserve a big round of applause too. And again, very special group of people to Eva in her life. I'd like to thank our soloists. Mary Louise Cameron did a wonderful job. I appreciate that too. As everyone here knows, Eva's a very, very private person, and so when we sat down to try and plan the service, it was difficult to come up with some readings and some music that were special to her. Ave Maria is the only piece of music that is church-related that I ever heard Eva say anything one way or the other about. And her comment was, actually, my sister sang as a solo when my mom passed away, and I remember Eva commenting after what a lovely job she did and what a great... So thank you very much, Marianne, for doing a wonderful job on that for us as well. And I think the day is very fitting for Eva. I think in a world that's, as Cliff had said in his speech during the service, a world that's often full of bad news and a maelstrom of unpleasantness, that Eva was a nice bright spot in that, and I think we can say the same about the day. It's very fitting. We have a nice sunny day in the middle of some stormy weather to celebrate Eva's life with us. And especially everyone else who's here. I appreciate every single one of you coming. I know that you're all very special and have a very meaningful connection to Eva, and having so many people come out to celebrate her life with us is just amazing. So thank you to everyone who's here. Now I have just a few words of my own, and then I'm going to start working my way through the list of people who've signed up to say a few things. I am, as I mentioned earlier, I'm currently the president of the Eva Leflar Foundation, and myself, my Aunt Gail, and a couple of my cousins are some of Eva's few remaining actual blood relatives, and but I think it's very important that everyone understand that as important as family was to her, and even though she didn't have family of her own, she definitely did create a special family to surround herself with. First and foremost among that group of people is Shirley Taylor, who's sitting in the back. And I apologize to everyone that I'm going to point out specifically now if you're not comfortable being in the spotlight. Shirley and Eva have been friends for more than 50 years. I don't know the exact number, and I wouldn't even hesitate to ask anyone to take a guess at it. The six girls who took care of Eva for the last several years of her life: Monica, Val, Kristen, Jess and Jess, Caitlin. You guys, I know, have seen Eva on some of maybe her not best days, but she always spoke so highly of you guys, and even on days where maybe she wasn't showing it to you, I know how much she appreciated having you guys in her life, and I know how much brighter and how much more enjoyable you made the last 2 years of her life. So, thank you. In addition to that, I also want to mention, especially Barb. I know she was up and everyone had seen her share some of her thoughts with Eva at the front of the church earlier. Barb has been a very large and important part of Eva's life for more than 20 years? 25, there you go. They met, as Barbara said, they met professionally, but in addition to being a trusted advisor and a very dedicated business companion of Eva's over the last number of years, I know she's also grown to be a very, very special friend to Eva during that time. And I wanted to also just extend a thank you and voice of appreciation to Barb for that love and dedication that she's shown to Eva as well. Now, although I'm family, the one thing I do have to say is when you're 10 or 12 or 14 and you see grandparents and great aunts and things like that at family events and weddings and sad occasions, funerals and things like that, you don't tend to find yourself hanging out. And it's one of the things that I have to say right now that I think was an opportunity that I may have missed as a child, not really understanding sort of the bright light that was in my life at that time in Eva. She was, forgive me for the terminology because I'm probably almost the same age now as she was when I first started seeing her at family events, but she was always one of the older ladies sitting in the corner drinking tea and eating cookies and talking about whatever the older ladies talk about. But what I do remember, the couple of things I remember about Eva from my very, very young days were her kindness. And I think everyone here has seen that in a big way. When I was younger, the way that came through is, she was one of the nicer old ladies, not one of the grumpier old ladies that used to have that tea at the time. She was one of the ones who would make a point of coming over and chatting with the kids. Again, a little bit of a prelude to the importance that kids played in their life, even though she didn't have any of her own. She would be the one that would come over and say, "Oh, so how's school going?" Sorry, she'd be looking over at the teachers. "How's school going? What are you playing hockey this year? Do you have a girlfriend?" Very short, brief periods of time, but she always would make a point of coming over. So I particularly remember that gentleness and that kindness of Eva when I was little. But I also remember a little bit more of the real Eva, and it's the part that I would suspect everyone in here maybe has seen snippets of, but not. Eva was honest. She was a straight shooter, and she was a little. I use the word gritty. Not that's a bad thing, but she was real. I can remember as a teenager popping in to visit my grandparents, and my grandfather, who had a very special. She was very, very close to her Uncle Howard. She was also very, very close to my grandfather. And they would often sit and debate the great topics of the day. Lots of time over tea, but it also wasn't unusual for it to be a pair of shot glasses and a bottle of Crown Royal that was helping lubricate the conversation. And I can remember on more than one occasion listening to those conversations and having her call my grandfather a bag of hot air or some other colorful phrase because she wasn't entirely in agreement with what he was saying. And any of you who may have known my grandfather know that there are not very many people in this world that can get away with that. But Eva was, in spite of being 4'10", Eva was a larger-than-life person. But she's real. I've heard other people mention her sense of humor, her dry wit. She's very, very dry wit. I racked my brain for a week trying to think of a particular example, and it saddens me that I can't think of one, but I can remember on one or two occasions walking away from a conversation where I overheard a little comment from Eva and giggling about how she would be putting someone in their place because they get to be a little too big for their britches. And I remember that being a phrase that she used on more than one occasion as well. And that's really the Eva that I remember as a kid. the Eva that everyone here remembers is the Eva that I grew to know as I got older. And I've been a member of her foundation for 10 years or more now. And it was really during that time where I got to know the magnitude of the generous side of Eva. As everyone else, the number of lives that she touched, the quiet, unassuming, private way that she liked to get out there and help people and give them that start in life. And I'm going to wrap up with a quote. And again, credit where credit is due. It's actually one that came to me from Wendy at Community Foundation, wherever Wendy is sitting, and I appreciate that. It's a quote from John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States. And I can think of no one that I know personally that befits this description better. If your actions inspire others to dream more, to do more, to learn more, and to become more, then you are a leader. That's the Eva that I'm going to miss. The leader, the generous, the gritty, the real person. I wish I had a drink because I think it would be appropriate to cheers Eva. To Eva.
You can see that Eva and I were related so far as height goes. Can you hear me okay? I'm really fortunate in that I've known Eva all my life. Eva and my father, George Brazell, were not only cousins, but they were also very good friends, and as Jim said, they could sit and chat and laugh for hours and hours on end. So as a child, I saw Eva frequently when she came to visit with my mom and dad, and she was always full of sparkle. She was delightful. She had lots of excitement about her. And to my young eyes, I thought she was fun and fabulous and the smartest woman I ever knew, next to my mom. And after I moved out of my parents' home and relocated to Guelph, I saw her less often, but we stayed in touch with family functions and special occasions and such. It was when I joined the board, her board of the Eva Leflar board of the Eva Leflar Foundation, that I began to see her more often again, and her presence confirmed to me again that she was still, indeed, fun, fabulous, and one of the most smartest women I knew. She was also so much more, and the accolades that go on, as Jim said as well. She was sincere and kind, most generous and humble, and the list goes on. That's only to name a few of her traits. She was magnificent, and I greatly admired her. I have an old verse here that Eva had kept, which, when I read it, I thought, this is Eva. And I'd like to read it for you now. You can see that it's old and fragile. It was in her papers. She gave me a couple of books from her bookshelf when she moved from her home on 2nd Avenue a few years ago. And this was in one of the books. It's entitled Success. She has achieved success who has lived well, laughed often, loved much, who has gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of little children, who has filled her niche and accomplished her task, who has left the world better than she found it, whether by an improved copy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who has never lacked appreciation for earth's beauty or failed to express it, who has looked for the best in others and given the best he had, whose life was an inspiration, whose memory a benediction. Isn't that Eva? And I don't know when this was printed, but I think she'd been saving it for some time. So perhaps this was her inspiration. Eva was, and will continue to be, I think, an inspiration to all of us. Today's memorial certainly testifies that many share my sentiment. I feel honored to have been her cousin, a member and director of her board, and most of all, a friend. She will be missed and lovingly remembered, always. I also have a letter from one of the people. She's emailed me last night. She couldn't make it because of weather. This is a letter from Penny Harmon, who works for the Children's Health Foundation in London. And she wrote to say, the Children's Health Foundation raises funds for Children's Hospital in London, which provides specialized care for sick and injured children and youth from birth to 18 years of age, for children from Grey Bruce counties and beyond. Ms. Leflar and the board of the Leflar Foundation recognize the care provided by Children's to the families of Grey Bruce, and over the years granted funds to Children's for specialized equipment, a training program to help rural physicians, and for monitors for the neonatal intensive care unit. We are truly grateful that Eva Leflar decided to establish her foundation to help organizations such as Children's Hospital and so many more. What an enviable legacy to leave, sincere caring for others. We thank Eva and the Leflar Foundation for raising hope for children.
Public speaking is far from what I am able to do, but as one of Eva's last remaining friends, and on behalf of her many, many friends who are no longer with us, I would just like to say a few words to honor her friendship. I've known Eva for years and years and years, and we've shared so many good times. She was a member of the King's Daughters, as was I. She enjoyed curling. We played bridge, if you'd call it that. And, oh yes, she took me, very generously took me to the symphonies. We had dinners out, and at Christmas time, she would be at my place for Christmas. And there's so many memories I have of Eva. And I just couldn't begin to tell them all. Oh, one thing, though, Eva and I were on a trip years and years, I don't know how many years ago, to Jamaica, and we really, really had a wonderful time. I am so fortunate to have had such a good friend, a friend we were both friendly when somebody both had each other. See, I told you I was no good at speaking. When either one of us were in trouble, we had the other one standing by for us. The same in happiness. I'm going to miss Eva very, very much. But I know now that she is in peace. No more suffering. No more pneumonia. No more black arms. No more phone calls at night and visiting her in the afternoons. She was a good friend, and now at last she will be in peace with people around her, loving and caring for her. For the 6 girls, not going to name you all, that were with her, they were absolutely fantastic. Many an afternoon I'd go over, and they would be in tears. That's how much they loved her. To Jim and Barb, they too have been tremendous with Eva. I don't know of anyone who hasn't benefited from Eva and Eva's love and affection. Thank you, and I'm sorry, I'm not very good at this, but
okay. Eva was adorable. She was an amazing woman. Okay. Yes. Okay. So on behalf of the 6 of us girls, we just want to say that, a lot of people say to us, Eva is really blessed to be able to have you girls in the last day of her life, and I would say, no, we are the blessed ones. We really count it an honor and a privilege to have been with Eva the last couple of years of her life. Eva lived a full life, like a long, good life. And we've heard so many stories from the people that knew her well, and from Eva too. She told us so many things about her lives. And you know, that's the thing. As you get older in your life, you begin to contemplate what you did in life. And behind closed doors, you know, those are the things that you start to talk about and reminisce. And we were really privileged to be a part of that. And I want to read this. Jessica had found this. It's sermon notes from when Eva was 15 years old. It's awesome, okay? Because when I read this to you and you see her life, she wrote this at 15 and then she lived that until she was 93. We saw her every day. She was always thinking of other people. She was always concerned for the well-being of others. And she would be in pain some days. Like, you know, as our bodies get older, sometimes they aren't as spry as they used to be. But Eva, we said to her in the last days of her life, Eva, you know what? 2 things that I learned from you. One is that no matter what comes your way, you have a good attitude and you don't complain. And we would be amazed at Eva's good attitude about life and how she didn't complain about herself and the things that she was going to. Instead, she focused on others and wished well on others and prayed for others. One day in particular, I was sharing this at Eva's burial, and Eva was having a bit of a down day. You know, we all have down days sometimes, and I said, well, Eva, let's just, you know, spend some time together talking about this, and God wants us to be happy, so let's pray about this together. And it just was like an amazing feeling of peace in the room together. And then she just, she didn't talk about herself when she was talking to God. She thought for a few minutes and then she said, Father, I just lift up all those people in the Owen Sound who are sad and lonely right now. And she started praying for other people. She was just always caring about other people. And even when she would be eating her meal, you know how quite often people sometimes still, you know, say a little prayer before they eat. Well, she just didn't do that. She would, before she ate, she would make sure, she would say to us, you know, I can share this. Did everybody get their food? And she would want to make sure that everybody was taken care of and that everybody was fed before she would eat. We would have to say, it's okay, Eva, that portion is for you. Everybody else has theirs. It just came out in everything she did, how much she cared for other people. And so anyways, I'm going to read this, and it fits in really well with what Reverend Dana said this morning, and about hope, and how, you know, Eva lived her life not just hope for herself, but hope for other people. And the true hope, which is holding on to what we know is good and what we know is real. So, this is from 1934, and the date is November 27th. So, and this is talking about heaven. She said, she wrote down, in all walks of life, feasts are closed to those who are not ready. Feasts of good literature, good art, music, are closed to those who have not prepared themselves to appreciate them. Heaven is not just something to be entered into after death. Heaven commences the moment we accept Christ as our living Savior, and enjoyment of the feast that God has prepared for us will depend entirely on whether we are ready to enter into the feast. So here we see that Eva, I think it's amazing that at 15 she was already talking about art and music, and that's awesome, you know, and then she lived her whole life that way, which was, she knew that, like, now she's in heaven, but her journey to heaven started when she accepted Christ. And she lived her life as a model to all of the people that she loved and blessed. And you know, some other things that we would talk about in our times together was she would talk about heaven, and you know, just saying that we would see each other again, and we will. We'll have tea with Eva, and we love you, Eva, and we will see you again.
I am going to ask if Stacy and Deb, principals from Dufferin and Keppel, I remember which schools, and they brought a couple of students that are participating in programs that Eva's helped fund just to come and say a few words.
We would like to thank the Eva Leflar Foundation for donating money to our school for the past 3 years to support extracurricular activities in our school and the community. It has made a big difference for the students in our school. We are able to offer lots of activities right in our school, like soccer, dancing, tennis, gymnastics, swimming lessons, and Friday morning hockey. The money has allowed all of our students to participate and to benefit from the activities and equipment we have been able to provide because of Ms. Leflar's generosity. The foundation has also allowed our school to provide students that couldn't otherwise afford to participate in activities within our community, such as YMCA memberships, minor soccer, swimming lessons, and so on. On behalf of Dufferin Elementary School, we would like to thank Eva Leflar for all that she has done for our school. Keppel Sarawak students thank Mrs. Leflar for all of these after-school opportunities: gymnastics, tennis, dance makers, folk dance, Friday morning hockey, skating, swimming, and memberships at the YMCA. Thank you.
I first became aware of Eva and the good work she has done for this community when I worked for the Georgian Bay Children's Choir. It was Linda Hawkins who brought her generosity to my attention. And Linda was always very kind to acknowledge the work that Eva did for the Children's Choir. And Eva was always so humble when she was asked to come up on stage or be given some flowers. And a few years later, I was called to Eva's home to look at some of her antiques. And when I arrived outside her house, she had this lovely but very humble home, and I'd heard so many things about Eva and all the good that she did for the community that I thought I had the wrong house. And she was such a lady. She offered me tea. And the more I became involved in this community and I started seeing things that I'd like to support, festivals and concerts, Eva's name was on every single one of those programs. Somebody was always thanking her. And you could just tell that she was behind almost everything good and cultural and wonderful that went on in this community. And on behalf of the Owen Sound Little Theatre, who I work for now, I can say that she also was generous in including them in her kindness, as she was one of our capital campaign donors for our Burn and Build Foundation, Burn and Build Fund that helped us write off our mortgage. She helped, I believe, when the building was purchased. She's helped us with our youth programming. We have our very first First Nations music workshop coming up in the middle of November that she helped fund, 2 co-op programs for youth, one of which has gone on now to university to continue her studies, summer programming, March break programming, and the list just goes on. And I think we're all very lucky to have had her as a supporter in a community where arts organizations in particular have so much trouble finding funders and supporters, with so many strong sports in our community that people for generations have supported. And I'll leave you with this. Recently, I went and spoke to somebody who works for one of the major resource developers in our community and asked for some funding for the Little Theatre, and the answer was,
well, you know, we support sports. We always have supported sports. That's what we do. And I said, yes, I appreciate that, but could you perhaps consider funding the arts? Well, you know, it's always the artsies that are squelching against things like the environment and human rights. So I don't think I want to help with that. And I thought how much that illustrated how unique Eva was and what an amazing mind and heart she had. So thanks for allowing me to speak about the good things that she's done, and thank you, Eva.
Hello, everybody. I am Angola, and I'm representing the people who didn't get to meet Eva, but was heavily touched by her. So yeah, unfortunately I didn't get to meet her, but I found out about her as I am artistic director for a circus company that offers kids here in Grey Goose County circus experiences. And so last year I was looking for funding for my charity and found the foundation, and then since then have discovered that the foundation has been behind all of the great events that happen here in Grey Goose County. So to my delight, I found that out, and then since then have been telling people how my program works and who's funding it, and all these people knew Eva and told me the wonderful things about her. So it's just, in 1 year, she's really affected my life, and the foundation allowed for 16 kids last summer to do things like trapeze and tight wire and juggling, and all these Grey Goose County kids had got to experience successes in circus and then perform at Onsam Busker Fest and Summer Folk. And so Eva's legacy will live on with her foundation, and her spirit and generosity will be missed. So thank you very much.
Sweetwater Music Festival, Richard had to leave, but I'm bringing words from Mark Fewer, who was the artistic director, and he considered Eva to be a very special person, as we all do. We were all saddened by the passing of Eva Leflar, a champion of generosity in the community for so many years. Eva never sought the limelight that potentially came with such giving. In our loud and chaotic times, her quiet and steady presence was unquestionably supremely powerful. We will miss her. I'd also like to say that we should all consider what our own legacy will be. In the future, we have a chance to maybe do at least a little bit of the good that Eva has done for all of us. And so we must not forget that, and we must make that a point in our own lives to do the same. Thank you.
My name is John Pretty, and my memories of Eva go back 60 years. I've known her since I was born. She was probably one of the first people that ever saw me after I was born. The reason being, she was a very, very good friend of my mother, Betty Pretty, and they worked together at Slater's. Anybody remember Slater's? Way back in the 40s, and my grandfather worked there as well. That's where my mother met my father, actually, and started dating. But anyway, Eva and my mother, Betty, became very good friends. And I think now I know maybe one of the reasons. My mother was 4'11". So she finally found somebody to hang around with who was a little shorter than her. Anyway, my mother passed away 8 years ago. And I had a call from Eva, and she wanted to have me come over to the house and have a little visit with her. And she knew my mother's great love of music, and my mother had studied under the Royal Conservatory, and she was quite talented, but never got the opportunity to really utilize it. She was married with 4 kids and all that sort of thing. But anyway, she wanted to set up a bursary fund in my mother's name for the Kiwanis Club of Own Sound, for the music festival, which I've been a proud member of the Kiwanis Club for 30-odd years. So it was quite an honor for her to have me come over and talk to her and get that all set up. And it's a real thrill for our family to have this Betty Pretty Fund set up. Thank you very much to Eva Leflar. And just on a humorous note, I knew more funny things and humorous things about Eva than anything else. And a couple of stories come to mind, I hope you don't mind, but one day, it's got to be 20 years ago, I was behind the Bank of Nova Scotia parking lot when they still had meters. And I was parking my car and I was fishing out some money to put in the meter, and Eva came up to me and she said, "John, can you lend me a quarter?" She still owes me a quarter. And I can remember one time during this business of the setting up the fund, I went to her house and I knocked on the door and nobody came, but her car was there, so I figured she had to be home. Finally, she came to the door and her hair was all flying around and she had black soot all over her face. This is when she was in her 80s. And I said, "Eva, what are you doing?" "Well, I was down cleaning the furnace." I mean, she was such a down-to-earth person. She could well afford to have other people come in and do those sort of things, but she wanted to do them herself. That was just the side of Eva that I knew. And sadly, I have not been in touch with her too much over these last couple of years, but we have a lot of great memories in our family of Eva, so I decided to end in that. No, thank you.
And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the King's Daughters. Shirley mentioned them. King's Daughters is a interdenominational charity that was quite active here for many years, and we worked in confidence to help people in need. And Eva was such a wonderful resource. She worked in children's aid, so she knew families that needed help. And she always would know what they needed, and was so good too at knowing children that maybe should be sent to camp in the summer. And I really enjoyed working with her and feel such a privilege that I knew her. And I was also her roommate on 2 conventions, to Gananoque once in Ottawa. And she was fun. We had such a good time. And I just think that it's just so wonderful. She was so humble, and she lived so simply. And then when she got her inheritance, she has just made it work so beautifully for this community. Thank you.
I live near Old Sound. And what I'm bringing is a different aspect of Eva than we've all talked about earlier. My husband and I adopted a little boy, and Eva was our worker in the adoption. So when she came out to visit us a couple of times before, and she said, the one visit, "What is it you don't want?" Like she wanted to know what we wanted in a child. And so we never even realized it, so we're both trying to tell what we wanted. And then she said, "Is there anything that you don't specifically want?" So my husband, we hadn't talked about this, spoke up and said, "I really don't want a red-headed child." And Eva kind of went, "Oh." And he said, "Because I can remember at school, all the little red-headed kids that I went to school with were teased. They were teased everywhere they went, and no matter what they did, the kids teased them. So he said, I don't think I want a red-headed child." So after a little bit, Eva phoned and said she had this little boy for us. And she said, "Come out." So she came out and she told us all about him. And then she said, "Look at Roy. There's one mistake, one error here." And he said, "What?" And she said, "The baby I picked for you has red hair." And then she said, "I used to have red hair. I don't anymore." And of course her hair was graying at that time. So that was my memory of Eva. Very special. Our son is 37 now, and we love him to pieces, and I'm very grateful to her. Thank you.
I need to repeat again that I greatly appreciate everyone coming. I know that the time is starting to slip away, and if people have places to go, absolutely we understand that. If you want to stay and have a little more visiting time, then be here. If anyone else would like to say anything, the mic is open. I'm going to just add one little, I've been checking my email vigorously since we got out of the service because Fred Furness, many of you here will know Fred, is a member of the board for the Eva Leflar Foundation, as well as an advisor on Eva's donor advised fund of the Community Foundation. And he winters in Arizona, so he unfortunately was not able to make it today, but I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and all I got from him about 10 minutes ago was a quick email saying, my computer has been busted and I haven't had time to write anything, but please let everyone know how much he regrets not being able to be here. And like everyone else here, I mean, he's in the past, I don't know which of he's still active on. He's been with Sweetwater Music. He's been on the Order of Good Cheer, a number of things where Eva has been an avid supporter of many of those things. And then a couple of years ago, he joined our board. Greatest respect and admiration for Eva and the person that she was and the work that she does. And he just wanted me to make sure that I expressed that to the group as well in his absence. Like I said, otherwise, there's still some sandwiches. I know I don't want. Oh, yeah, and you know what? The same for my dad. I apologize. All the other stuff going on, you always forget the people closest to you, don't you? My dad also is. I'm embarrassed. I don't even know where he is. Florida somewhere. My dad's in Florida somewhere, and he said the same. Eva was very, very close to my grandfather, so my dad and Gail's father, and he actually was pallbearer for both of Eva's parents, and I know he very, very much wishes he could be here, but again, travel plans get made, and then things happen, and we have to deal, but very, very deep love and affection of Eva. As a person, he has not quite so much experience with her generous giving side, but just wanted to make sure that I share that as well. Okay, like I said, if anyone cares to share, the mic is open. Otherwise, we'll just mull around and share some food, and anyone who has to scoop can scoop. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I really, really appreciate it.